This is a show where we do exclusive talks with successful entrepreneurs from all around the world. You hear their stories, their challenges, and advice that you can use when starting your own business. Take notes and take action. Let's go. Hi, I'm your host Angelo Genao, and welcome to Build Different, episode number 4. How being the best dressed in school can lead to starting a custom suits business. Our next guest is Stephen Richards, a custom suits maker who owns a clothing and lifestyle company around his passion. All of his suits are made to order and is custom made for each of his clients. He only sources quality material that'll last a lifetime. He took a few minutes to sit down with us and tell us about his journey. Without any further ado, here's his story. Before we get into the talk, let's give thanks to our good friends over at Skillshare for supporting the show. Skillshare is a service where you can learn new skills online, such as filmmaking, business, design, or even photography. And there's over 23,000 classes from experts from around the world. Skillshare is honestly a great place to get started if you're trying to expand your current skill set or even learn and try something that you've never tried before. If you're interested in learning a new skill or want to see my top recommended classes for entrepreneurs, click the link below. The first 500 people that sign up are going to get the first 2 months for free and receive an invitation to our secret Facebook community of entrepreneurs. Once you sign up, you'll have access to unlimited premium courses, and if for any reason you don't like it, Skillshare makes it super easy to cancel within your trial period without getting charged. So if you want to learn a new skill and be a part of the first 500 people that get 2 months free, make sure to click the link below. Now back to the show.
Name's Stephen Richards Jr. I founded Richards Bespoke about a little bit less than 3 years ago. It's a fully custom men's clothing company specializing in suits, sport coats, shirts, slacks. Just got into jeans, leather jackets, also do tuxedos. But I'm born and raised here in Nashville, Tennessee, and that's where I'm located out of. Graduated from college, went back to work. My family's got a company here in town, completely separate from the fashion industry.
Okay.
Worked there for about 2.5 years and realized it wasn't my passion. I've always been interested in men's fashion and, love dressing up, any excuse to put on a jacket or wear a suit. And I bought my first custom suit after many failed attempts of buying things off the rack, realized they didn't fit, so I tried to get them altered, and then I doubled the price of the suit. So I discovered custom suiting. Realized for the price point it was a little bit more expensive, but you got to design the suit, pick out the pockets, the buttons, lining, the fabric, and so after discovering custom, I told myself when I left my dad's company, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that wasn't for me. I was 26 at the time, single, just had a dog and a mortgage, and decided I'll try to figure it out. And it literally only took me about 2 days. I kind of asked myself, you don't know what you want to do, but what is the one thing in your life that you know for absolute certainty that you are better than anybody that you know, better at than doing? It was how to dress. I kind of thought to myself, how can I incorporate that into a business model? And so I decided to go into custom suiting. Found a guy down in Athens, Georgia, from a friend of a friend that started his own custom clothing company. So went down to Atlanta to meet with him. Was blown away by his process, kind of how he handled things, the way he had built his business over the past 5 or 6 years. And he kind of took me under his wing, taught me everything he knew, gave me access to his manufacturer. And from there, started to grow. It took a while. In fact, it took a really long while. Something that we can probably touch on later where I had to have side jobs. I drove Uber for about a year. In and around appointments just to make money, because in the beginning you have to realize I'm in startup mode. I'm 3 years in and it's still kind of startup mode. I've grown the business and now, I don't have supplementary income that I'm having to find, but at the same time it's feast or famine, and certain weeks you don't sell anything and certain weeks you sell what the month's quota was. So again, been doing this for about a little bit less than 3 years, and it's truly my passion. When I get up and go to work in the morning, it doesn't feel like work. I feel like I'm stealing from people because it's a hobby that I get paid for. So
that is so cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. So you left your dad's company, and was it you said 2 days after?
2 days after
you found out exactly what you wanted to do, and then you found someone that was able to mentor you, right?
Right, and that's not normal for 2 days to figure out what you want to do. And it just so happened that it was because what I asked myself. I basically, I wasn't a great student growing up. I didn't have many jobs growing up. I only worked for my dad all through middle school and high school, and then in college I was a bartender, and so
Mm-hmm.
didn't have much experience outside of those two industries.
Yeah.
That's when I asked myself, what do you know how to do? What is something that you're not going to consider work, that you're going to
Mm-hmm.
work every hour of the day to try to grow something and it
Yeah.
not be a burden on you? And
Yeah.
that's what it was.
That's so cool. Let's talk about some of the challenges you faced in building, your business. What was it that was difficult when you didn't expect to happen actually when you first started?
I would say time management was a big one.
Okay.
Again, I would wake up probably about 4:30 in the morning, would
Mm-hmm.
drive Uber from about 5 to 8 a.m., would have appointments, would drive in between appointments. Then after appointments, when I was done for the day, I would
Mm-hmm.
get back in the car and drive till about midnight. Um, and realizing that I was kind of putting myself under with how much I was working,
Mm.
and to realize where time is better spent trying to grow the business. But I didn't have to raise a whole bunch of capital. That's typically a lot of people's problem is having to raise money to fund things that are going into the
Yeah.
business. But for me, it's custom clothing. I don't have inventory. I don't have socks, but well, I do now. But
Yeah.
when I first started out, socks, pocket squares, ties, accessories. None of those suits that are on my racks are off the rack. They're out for delivery. So when somebody purchases something, they pay me 50% down for the deposit, 50% when they get it back and are satisfied. So I didn't have to raise a bunch of capital, which I'm
Interesting.
very glad for. But I found that starting a business is just incredibly difficult on its own. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's a lemonade stand or a Fortune 500 company.
Mm-hmm.
I've been my own employee for about 2.5 years. I finally hired an assistant, and that's become an incredibly difficult challenge for me. And having to train somebody that, when she's entering my orders, it's almost like I feel like she should know certain things, but she doesn't because she's
Mm.
been in the industry.
Okay.
So having to train somebody has become incredibly difficult, and it's gonna get worse before it gets better. And she's doing great, and she's picking up everything very quickly. But definitely hiring somebody was a difficult challenge that I had. And
Yeah.
then also in the beginning when it was just me, and even still kind of till now, everything that you do, you wear the hat for. So
Mm.
you're the president, you're the CEO, you're the COO, you're in charge of marketing. I'd spend all day long working on my website trying to build it, and social media, my Instagram, and then at the end of the day, I told myself it's like I just spent 14 hours trying to work on this, and I didn't even sell anything today.
Yeah.
So having to have every position kind of designated towards you, that kind of went back to time management, and I realized, if I can afford it, I'm going to pay for it. If somebody's better at something than me, I'm not going to try to do it myself.
Yeah.
The only thing that I've done is I built my website and I ran my Instagram.
Mm.
But other things like designing my logo, I pretty much had a vision, but I outsourced it to somebody
Yeah.
because it would take me months to try to figure out different programming and design tools. And so I've always told myself, if you can do it and it doesn't take up too much of your time, then do it. But if somebody can do it quicker than you,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
you can pay, that you can afford, or even almost not afford, but that's the trick there, is because I would spend so much time doing things that I could have paid somebody a minimal
Yeah.
cost to do it in an hour when it took me a few days.
Yeah.
So I realized where you're putting your money, it really matters, and
Mm-hmm.
your time especially, because time is money. And when you're working for yourself, and you can't really see my whole space, but I live in a live work unit. So the
Mm.
downstairs is retail, and the upstairs is my loft, which is my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much work around the clock, and I don't really mind because it's all under one roof. But you just have to realize that you're going to have to cancel out a lot of things in your life, social life. I stopped going to bars, eating out at restaurants. I actually had to make a budget for myself, which I'd never really had to. I lived off of $35 a week for food for about 2 years, because I knew that all the money that I was making, I wanted to keep it in the company. I was going to pay myself minimally. I really needed to grow the company, and anybody can grow a company at a snail's pace
Yeah.
and be all right maybe in 10, 15 years. But especially now with social media being so huge, that's where I realized I needed to put a lot of money and time and effort into, because that's where a majority of my clients come from now.
Yeah.
So
That's so cool. You let's go back to, you mentioned that you started with little to no capital. That's a lot of people's concern. A lot of people hold back on starting their own business because they feel that they have to spend a ton. They feel that it's out of their budget. How did you start that without much capital? How does your business model work?
So the only capital that I used was just my savings, which was not much. I mean, it was under $10,000.
Okay.
And really there, I didn't use much of it because again, my product, it's made to order. So when somebody comes in, when they design something, they pay me 50%, which covers a lot of the cost. And
Okay.
so I'm not out any money.
How does that model work? So let's say someone goes on your website, right?
Mhm.
Someone goes on your website, then what happens?
So they'll book an appointment. So my showroom is by appointment only.
Okay.
So guys will book an appointment, schedule a time. They'll come in. I'll measure them, and then say they're looking for a suit. We pull out the fabric books. They go through the books. They pick out the fabric that they want, and then they design the suit. So they'll pick out the lining on the inside, the buttons, the buttonhole colors,
Oh.
pockets. I mean, it's probably about 50 different things you can design.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it takes about 4 to 5 weeks to make the suit. And then they'll come back in for the final fitting.
Mm-hmm.
And so the price model works 50% down when you schedule the appointment and pick everything out, and then 50% down when you get it back and they're satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
So that was why I said I didn't have to really raise much capital because, people are basically paying for the product that they're.
So they pay you, you get the product, and then you deliver the service after they pay you,
Right,
and then they pay you the remaining, right?
right, right.
Ah, that's
And
interesting.
and so I could have probably, looking back on it, I've grown to a comfortable level now to
Mm-hmm.
where I didn't need capital, but if I wanted to jumpstart what I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
to be where I'm at now, to do that 2 years ago, I would have had to pump a lot of money into marketing, especially social media, and then other forms of marketing, whether it be digital, physical. Um, I could have used some more money, and it could have jump started the process a little bit faster.
Of
But
course.
I'm happy where I'm at, and I don't regret anything. And even looking back on it, it's all a risk, and that's what everybody in the back of their mind is thinking. Whether they have this really cool product that they're wanting to come out with, and they're worried about getting finances from a bank. And I've always said that I didn't have to go through that. I didn't have to go to a bank to get money, but I believed in myself enough and my product enough
Mm-hmm.
and my services enough that I don't think a bank would have turned me down if they would have given me a chance because I wasn't going to fail. That wasn't an
Nice.
option. People ask who my competitors are, and I do have a few competitors here in town, and then some that are nationally
Mm-hmm.
that are located here. But I'm competing against myself.
Yeah.
There's not a competitor that's going to outwork me that does exactly what
I
I
hear
do,
that.
and it's that mindset that you have to have because I think that's a lot of people's fear is,
Mm.
what if I don't succeed? I don't want to take a bunch of somebody else's money and then not be able to perform.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, if you're doubting yourself, then it's never going to work. I mean,
Exactly.
it's impossible. So
Yeah. Let's go ahead and backtrack to the competitors. I know you have some competitors, as you mentioned. How do you how do you stand out from them? What makes your business unique?
certainly age. I'm by far the youngest by at least a decade that does what I do. And nowadays, the more modern trim fitting look, that's something that I really specialize in. My website, and I know all my competitors actually pretty well and are friends with a lot of them.
Okay.
It's an industry that we all get along in.
Yeah.
And there's enough people in Nashville that we're not really competing, but we are. Um, and I'd love to tell them, stuff like their website, they need to update it. That's just something that when they go to my website, they see updated pictures. They see how I wear things because I'm in all the pictures on my website and they know
Mm-hmm.
that. My Instagram, social media is definitely my biggest tool. It's something that they don't, many of my competitors don't take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
And it really has to do with age and demographic
Yes.
because when they see what's on my website, when they see what's on my Instagram, that's what they want. That's what they expect. I'm probably one of two or three that is the only one that specializes in exactly what I do.
Okay.
Other competitors might have a retail store, so they're not actively going out and trying to find new clients. They're waiting for people to come in their store and
Mm-hmm.
maybe look at something off the rack and then they pitch them custom.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've taken advantage of because I only have to concentrate on one thing, and that's custom suiting. And I've ventured into jeans now and denim jackets and leather jackets, but
Okay.
it's kind of a complimentary service. I'm not really going out and marketing and advertising too much about that, but I think overall, just that I've stayed in the trend of what's popular now, and I don't think that's something that really any of my competitors have done. They're not proactively trying to grow their business like I am because they've been doing it for 20 plus years, and they kind of just have people come to them now. But 9 times out of 10, when somebody inquires on my website through Instagram, calls me from Google, whatever it might be, I always ask them, "How did you hear about me?" And 9 times out of 10, they'll say they Googled me. My reviews, I have all 5-star reviews, thankfully.
Yes.
It's something that the research that they do is true sign of exactly what I'm trying to I guess showcase in what I do, and it's been nice that but it's also made me realize about my competitors. Say in 15, 20 years, something new happens. Maybe it's not as a trim-fitting suit that it is today, and the modern look changes. It's taught me that you can never get comfortable in selling. You always have to adapt to whatever the new thing's going to be and what people are looking for.
Of course.
Which would be kind of difficult for me because I love things to fit, very trim. And say we go back to the 90s where it's big and baggy, I'm probably going to be pretty hesitant to jump ship of what I'm doing and go back to that style of suiting. And my needs, or people probably won't need me as much because if you want baggy, you can buy something off the rack.
Exactly.
So. But, that's one of the things that I realized, and really one of the bigger difficulties that hold on one sec.
Sure.
I had a work call that just came through and it popped up on my iPad. One of the difficulties that I had is that I kind of grew too fast beginning this past January. I've always heard about people talk about growing pains, and I've always kind of thought in my head, like, how are you going to complain that you grew too fast? And then it happened to me. Starting in January, I started this new radio ad. I pumped a bunch of money into a lot of different marketing outlets, and I was getting 10 to 15 leads a week. And it's just me, so having a schedule all the time to meet with guys, and then when there's stuff, it's like my schedule during the week is split mainly 2 ways. It's meeting with new clients and then delivering to previous clients when their stuff comes in. And so my week fills up very quickly, and I'm booking 2 and 3 weeks out for new appointments. And my process just changed. I was so comfortable with having 4 or 5 sales a week where I just had to enter in those orders. And then just had to meet with the new guys, and my schedule was pretty much free. And then when it grew, I was staying up till 2 and 3 in the morning entering in orders, and I would realize that I was making a few mistakes on some of the orders, and then the turnaround time became a little bit quicker or a little bit longer because I just had more orders. And so a lot of the guys were, calling in, emailing, complaining, "Hey, you said 4 to 5 weeks, it's now 6 weeks, and it might be 7 weeks that it comes in." So it really, it was a good thing that it happened because it made me, sit down, review everything, change my process, change how I do things. That's when I hired my assistant to kind of take some of the workload off of me. So biggest piece of advice for that type of struggle for anybody is you always have to adapt to any type of change, whether it be in the industry, the trends in the industry, or, your process. My process was, and I'm very process oriented. I wake up same time every day, have the same exact schedule in terms of admin work and follow-ups, and I had to, sit there and think about, all right, I need to change and allot this much time for this now, and this much time for this, and concentrate on this area where used to I didn't have to. So biggest piece of advice if you're starting to grow is that you have to adapt each level that you do grow, because otherwise you're going to get sunk.
Of course.
And it got to the point where I had a lot of unhappy customers that understood where I was coming from. I'm less than 3 years into this. They knew that I was growing, that I was figuring out some of the new ways to do things. But I can see where you could get a bad rap real quick, especially in my industry where a lot of my leads also come in from word of mouth. Guys that love their product, and when they're wearing it around town, people ask, "Where did you get that?" And they say, "Me." And that can work. Vice versa, where somebody asks, "Well, I like your jacket." "Well, I bought it from Richard's Bespoke, but the turnaround time was way longer." They were unhappy about something, and word of mouth spread way faster than online reviews can.
Of course.
So that difficulty really, I had to hammer down immediately.
Of course.
Which, thankfully, I was able to.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about your process a little more. Can you walk me through just from what do you do on a daily basis from the moment you wake up to the moment you leave the office or go upstairs? What do you do? Can you walk me through that process?
So every morning, wake up around 5 a.m. I'll go down, make breakfast. I'll go back upstairs. I'll get ready for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then from about 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., well, I should say about 6 to 7 a.m., that's when I follow up with my manufacturer. They might have some questions that I answer. And then any emails from later in the day, the previous day that I wasn't able to answer,
Mm-hmm.
that's my time to do all my emailing.
Mm.
And then from 7 to about 9, typically I'll schedule for some type of coffee meeting with somebody, kind of just getting out, meeting new people, networking, getting my name out there. And then from 10 to about 6 to 7 p.m., depending on the client, if I want to stay open a little bit later, that's when I schedule appointments, and then deliveries. So my week's pretty much filled from the normal work day for that. And whenever I get done for the day, I'll typically go back, and that's when I'll either enter in my orders or review everything that I've done. And if during the day, if I have, and I probably work, I'd say most days, work till about 9 and then try to get in bed. I'm not the type to stay up real late. I'd rather wake up earlier and get work done if I need to, because at the end of the day, my brain is shot, and entering in orders and following up with clients, it's if I enter in an order, at 2 a.m. and I'm halfway thinking because I'm halfway asleep, that could be a couple $1,000s worth of a mistake. So I designate certain hours of the day to enter in my orders, just so that I'm the freshest on my mind. I know exactly what I'm doing. And then a lot of times from after I get done working, I'll also work on social media. So I'll do my posts for the next day for Instagram. Work on my website. I've always, and one of the things that I did for time management was, if I could make money during those hours, I was not going to work on admin stuff. I was not going to work on social media. So if I could schedule an appointment with somebody, because a lot of people will make on their calendar from 9 to 11 a.m., I'm going to work on my website, I'm going to work on my social media. I can't do that because I need to be scheduling appointments with people in those hours. They might schedule those appointments, but I'm still, I'm going to leave that open for appointments, for something that's going to make me money. And social media and website, there's not a monetary value on the return, but at the same time, there is a return on it. And I've seen that because how many people have said that they came in because of my website, my Instagram. So even though if you don't get a dollar value out of it immediately, in the end you probably will. But I still, when I don't have the hours open to work with clients, that's when I work on social media and my website and admin stuff. Anything that has to do with kind of the background of my work. I'll typically do until I go to bed and then wake up the next morning and start over. I do work. Saturdays I'll work. I don't really like to have appointments, but I've been getting a demand for people coming from out of town that might live anywhere around 2 hours of radius outside of Nashville, because wherever they live, they might not have a service like mine, or they might not be happy. And so for them to commute, like I had 3 appointments on this past Saturday. One was from Huntsville, Alabama, which is about an hour drive from here, and then 2 from Knoxville, Tennessee, which is about a 3-hour drive. So if they're coming from out of town, I'll accommodate them because, they can't really get here during the week. But typically I'll use Saturday as my prep day for the week ahead. I'll go through my schedule for the next week. I'll put things on my calendar. And one of the biggest pieces of advice I could give to anybody is that I used to have a to-do list, an actual written out to-do list. And that list grew pages and pages long of 50 things to do, and I was never tackling any of it. Because in my mind, I'd say, all right, this one's the most important. I'll leave that one at the top. When I have the most time, I'll work on that. And I realized I was just never getting anything done. And I had spoken to somebody that said, you have to put it on your calendar. It doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter if it takes 5 minutes to do it. Put it on your calendar, because that's the only way that you're going to tackle anything. And so my calendar would look really spread out in terms of there's 100 things on it to do in a week, but I was able to accomplish whatever it was because I allotted that time for it.
Yes.
Which is definitely something that helped, because my to-do list became, now there's only a few things on it on average, because whether it be follow up with so-and-so or change your form for order entry, the stuff that it wasn't dire that needed to be done ASAP, but then it was never going to be done because it was never on my calendar. So that was definitely something that helped me tremendously.
That's cool. I know some of that seems stressful. Do you get stressed at all? And
I
if so,
do.
how do you manage that?
It is quite possibly one of the most stressful things I'll probably ever endure. There are days where I wake up and I look at myself in the mirror and say, "What the hell are you doing?"
Mm,
You had a comfortable job with your dad. You made good money. You had room for growth. And then there are certain mornings where I wake up and I'm looking at everything that I have to do, and
mm,
that's where I'm learning to delegate things to other people. Is because I can't do it all myself.
yeah.
It's rewarding. It's at the end of the day, when I look at my bank account for the business and my personal account, or I look at my
Mm-hmm.
sales, I never say that it's only me.
Mm,
There are many different people and many different people that have helped me and guided me along the way with just knowledge. Um, that have helped me to get where I'm at today. I never say it's my company. Anytime I'm talking about whether it be on social media, I say we or our, even though it's really just me. That's the only employee in the company that's doing most of the work, and it is very stressful. And it's
mm,
at the end of the day, you have to kind of realize what really matters the most. And for a lot of my clients, I've had to divorce a few clients. And when I say divorce, meaning they've been impossible to accommodate for what I do.
yeah.
And I basically have had to tell them they've put so much stress in my life that doesn't need to be there. And for a sale that isn't as much that would matter. And some of these clients have been my, bigger spending clients. And I still
Mm,
had to look, there's somebody else in this area that can accommodate your needs. It's just not me. You have to know when to walk away from something that's causing way too much stress in your
yeah.
life. Um, but Sundays are my only days. It's a religious thing. I don't work on Sundays, so it's my day to just kind of relax. Like all day yesterday, I pretty much didn't leave my loft. I just laid around and just relaxed.
Nice.
Spend time with family, spend time with friends, but just don't do anything work related. And
Mm-hmm.
you can really bog yourself down with how much you're working. If you're working Monday to Saturday all day every day, it's over time it's going to take a toll. And
Of
I tell
course.
people, it's like, yeah, I love what I do. I don't mind doing it. I don't mind waking up early in the morning, even on a Saturday. I had an 8 a.m. appointment on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Most people my age would never work on a Saturday, much less work at 8 a.m. on a Saturday. Um, but I know that at the end of each day, what I'm doing is building towards my ultimate goal of building this company. And,
Yeah.
in terms of stress, because I'm the only one in my company other than my assistant, um, I've got two other guys that started companies, not similar to mine, both in different industries. And we have what's, a mastermind group. We meet every Friday morning for breakfast, and we're reading a book right now. And we'll read books and just kind of come in and talk about them. And then basically, it's our time to vent about certain clients, vent about
Yeah.
problems, because we have nobody to do that to.
Yeah.
It's just us. And you really need, it's almost like having a psychiatrist with a friend. You need somebody to vent to about. And I've got my manufacturer, there's about only a handful of U.S. companies that use them. And we've kind of created a little group within our industry because none of us compete. We're all in different cities.
Yeah.
And we get together once a week, typically on a Skype call, and talk about how to build our brand, build our companies.
Mm.
And so that's a nice way to be a stress reliever because those guys are ones that do know exactly what I'm
Yeah.
going. But in terms of stress, I mean, it's going to come. Some people might be able to handle stress a little bit better. I feel like I have a pretty high tolerance. I've never really broken down and cried and wondered what I'm doing. And I've
Mm-hmm.
always been comfortable in the way that I've handled my business. That yeah, some weeks like last week I had the most appointments I've ever had in 1 week, and I was
Wow.
gone on Monday on vacation, which is another thing to kind of get out from stress is to just get out, go
Mm-hmm.
somewhere for a weekend, just turn off your phone, turn off social media, just go relax. It's something that you really do need.
Yeah.
Um, but I worked from Tuesday until Saturday, and every single day was jam-packed, filled with appointments, deliveries, other things that revolve around marketing. And at the end of the week, it was stressful, but the week went by really quickly, and I knew that everything I was doing was building for my company. So
Yeah.
stress is going to come with it. It's
Yeah.
just how you handle it,
Yeah.
how you face it, persevere through it.
Of course.
I know a lot of people, and I've always heard that in the first 2 years, that's when it either makes or breaks your company.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, when I hit my 2-year anniversary, I remember my dad called me and kind of reminded me. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's like I've been able to afford this new space, and been able to, obtain a lot more clients, and my sales goal was reached less than midway through the year this year. And I look back on it, it's because of how much work I put into it. Nothing comes free. Time, money, whatever it might be. But I knew that I was working every single day trying to grow what it is, and it's stressful. It's stressful wondering, am I going to have any appointments next week? Is there going to be an economic downturn? But you can't get bogged down with thinking about what can happen or what would happen. And it's just every day, just go at it with everything you have, and stress is a part of it, but just learn to manage the stress.
Absolutely. And on a scale of 1 to 10, right? 10 being the happiest. How happy are you that you made the decision to start your own business, and why?
It would be way past 10.
Yes.
If 1 to 10 is the scale, it's 10. It's again, I don't have a job. I have a hobby that I get paid for. It is so much fun for me, and so I can't even describe it. When guys come in and they're asking for help to pick out their fabric, to pick out their lining, their buttons, it's something that ever since I was younger in middle school and high school, and friends of mine, because I was always a little bit more advanced in how I dressed. Guys would come to me and say, "Hey, I've got this event tonight. Does this tie, shirt, pocket square, jacket, does this all go together?" I love giving that information. I love giving my, input on certain things like that. And that was one of the things I asked myself is, what do you know that you can do better than anybody? And that was a part of it, is that I have, zero doubt in my mind that every room I walk into, I'm going to be the best dressed, or I'm going to have the most knowledge about what I do. And that all comes with the happiness. I've always said that for entrepreneurs, there's 2 different types of entrepreneurs. One that is truly passionate about what they do, and then the other is truly passionate about just growing something. They don't care what it is, but they just want to grow something. And for me, I'd say it's definitely more on I'm passionate about what I do, but I'm also passionate about growing what I do. If you're not passionate about what it is that you're selling, what it is that you're creating, you're not going to put as much effort in as the next guy. That's something I've always asked myself is, of anybody in Nashville, can somebody else outwork you? And that's the question you have to ask yourself, because if they can, then they're going to do better than you. Sometimes knowledge is kind of spread thin in that way, but for me, I'm incredibly happy with what I'm doing. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I told you that I wake up some mornings, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I've been approached by some of my competitors to close my doors and come work with them and take over their division of whatever it is. And I never really I seriously considered it in terms of, I've always been keeping an open mind about things. But for me, I love growing my own brand. The first time that I met somebody, was introduced to somebody, and they go, "Oh, you're the owner of Richard's Bespoke." And then I met somebody else that said, "Oh, I follow you on Instagram." That feeling of when you get it, that outmatches any kind of bad week that you've had, any type of threat that you've endured, is that somebody else out there, and I've got close to over 7,000 followers on Instagram, which in big scheme of things, I don't think is that much, but a lot of people would say it's a whole lot. And it's, consistently growing, but to find out that somebody follows me on Instagram because they like my product, they like what I'm producing, it's something that could not make me more happy that I made the decision that I did. And the amount of times to where, I never contemplated shutting my doors and stop doing what I'm doing. That's why I always said, if I fail, it's because I didn't put in the amount of work.
Exactly.
It's not because of anybody else. It's not because of the economy. It's a mindset. If you fail, it's your fault. It's nobody else's fault. And I realized the mistakes that I made in the past, whether it be writing down a measurement wrong, entering in an order wrong, that's nobody else's fault except myself. And a lot of people, I like making mistakes. I don't like making the same mistakes. I like making new mistakes because it's something that I sit back, I look at, and I figure out what I did wrong and don't do it again. Sometimes the monetary mistakes are a little bit harder than the ones that you really don't do again. But a lot of people are afraid to fail, afraid to try new things. I've tried different ads that didn't work. I've tried, spreading my money around in different marketing areas, and it didn't work. it's all a part of growing. Is you're never gonna do everything perfectly.
Exactly.
And when you fail, or when somebody says, "Hey, this was not the best fitting suit I've ever worn," you have to make it right. You have to figure out why that was. And there's been a few clients to where, and luckily, I've only had to make tweaks to different garments less than 10% of the time. Pretty small number, but there have been times to where they have not been happy, and I've either waived the balance, or I've done something to accommodate the issue to where I just want to make it right. You can never leave a client dissatisfied. And used to, when I started, I had the first year that I did this, I had like 50 clients, and then it grew to 150 clients, and then it grew to 300 clients, and it's really hard to remember a lot of the clients. When they email back and say, "Hey, I want to come in and look at some more stuff," and they come to the door, it's like I couldn't even put a name to a face, and that's a part of business also. You're not going to remember everybody.
Of course not.
But you have to kind of keep a file on everybody to realize what their likes are, what their dislikes are, in terms of fashion for my industry. But you just have to accommodate all of them different ways.
That's interesting. If you had the chance to go back in time, right, when you were first starting your business, would you tell yourself something? Would you give yourself advice? Would you do anything different?
I've been asked this a number of times. I've spoken at a few different seminars about it, and to be completely honest, I wouldn't have changed a thing. I could be doing worse. I could be doing better. But where I'm at right now, not that I'm satisfied with the growth. My girlfriend, she, all day, every day, all she does is praise me for what I'm doing, and she's doing something similar in her own industry, started her own company, so she knows exactly where I'm coming from. But she says that I'm too hard on myself, that I'm never satisfied with what I'm doing. But I think that's the way for me, especially it should be, is that, I had one of my bigger weeks I've ever had last week. I still wasn't satisfied because I know that I've had a bigger week, and I know in that week I could have had a bigger week. My biggest month to date was this past February. 28 days in February. And so the amount of sales that I had in that month, I tell myself there's 31 days in most of the other months.
Oh, wow.
So that a few more days I could have done more in sales. And that's, looking back on it, I'd say I could have maybe had a little bit more capital, but I didn't want to be in debt, and I'm still to this day, thankfully, other than the space that I purchased, I'm not in debt. And that's why I'm glad that I grew at a little bit more of a snail's pace. But the only thing that I would have changed, really, and this is what I realized after I teach a class at a local high school, a metro public school, that it's an entrepreneurship class. These kids actually go in and start companies and raise capital, issue certificates of stock. They actually have a Shark Tank that they go in front of a panel of about five successful businessmen in Nashville and pitch their company. They have break-even points. They can walk home with their profit. It's a really cool program that it's from Junior Achievement of Middle Tennessee. Junior Achievement teaches financial literacy to kids and of all grades, and that's what I do it through. But looking back on it, I never had that growing up. I wasn't, I grew up in I would consider a well-off home. My dad, my parents, they did everything they could to provide for us, and we had to work for our allowance. We were never given money without having to work for it, which I appreciated. But I went to, and I realized this after teaching this class, is that Belmont, which is a local university here in town, they have an entrepreneurship program, a major that you can specialize in. And that's the one thing, because I went to Ole Miss down in Mississippi, and it was a business management major, which is well-rounded, which is good. My dad said to come back and work for his company, you just had to have a degree, a 4-year degree, didn't care what it was in. So I did business management. I figured that was well-rounded enough to what I was going to be going into. And then looking back on it, I really wish, and hindsight's 2020, my 18, 19-year-old self going off to college, I never imagined I would start my own company. I always thought I was going to work for my dad's company for the rest of my life, maybe take it for one day. But hindsight's 2020. But I wish I would have gone to Belmont and specialized in the entrepreneurship program, because starting out, filing for my LLC, I had to do a lot of countless research on just what to file under. Certain things, applying for a business license. All these different things. It's kind of like buying a home. You never know about buying a home until you first do it. It's something you wish you were a little bit more prepared for. And that was me when it came to starting a business. Is that I had to Google how to start a business in Tennessee. I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea. So the only thing I would have changed would be to have had a little bit better outlook on being an entrepreneur. But again, I survived.
Yeah.
I'm doing, in my opinion, just fine. And I didn't have that, but it might have been a tool that could have helped me jumpstart into selling a little bit
Mm-hmm.
quicker than just doing all the background work.
Of course.
But other than that, I don't have any
Yeah.
regrets. I shut out a lot of social things in my life that I don't regret. I didn't lose any friends over it, but I did have friends that would constantly say, "Hey, let's go out to here. Let's go out to lunch, to dinner, to brunch. We're going out of town to go do this. We want to play
Mm-hmm.
golf." I pretty much shut out everything in my life that was going to cost me money that wasn't going to be put into my company.
Mm.
Um, so I'd say if it was a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say probably about an 8 or a 9 in terms of really not changing much.
Yes.
Wouldn't have changed any of the mistakes I made because you kind of needed to make them. And that's why I think not having that entrepreneur background of taking classes solely revolving around building a business,
Mm-hmm.
I still did have to go learn. And it's something that a lot of people ask, if you were to start the company over again or start like a complementary industry similar to what you're doing, would you be able to do it quicker because I was like, yes, I would have more knowledge about what I did wrong, what I did right, but at the same time, baptized by fire, a lot of different things that I experienced because I did it wrong. And you always learn from a mistake better
Exactly.
than learning from all the things I did right. I don't have that written down on a piece of paper. I have everything I've done wrong because it's something that I wanted to learn from.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, yes, I do have things that I've done right in terms of marketing ads and where I've spent my money, and that was smart. And so to continue to do that, but overall, you're going to remember the things that you've done wrong way more than the things you've done right.
Absolutely. All right, Steven, let me go ahead and give you a scenario here. If you were, let's say you were stranded in a random city somewhere, and you only had your laptop and $150 to your name. You had no business at this point. What would you do to start your business over? What would you do to start a business over with those amount of resources?
Same industry that I'm in, or just any business period.
Anything at all.
So nothing other than a laptop and $150.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the most unique question I've ever been asked. Um, hmm.
It can be any
Depending on the
industry.
city I was in, I'd probably research companies that were local, that whether they're big Fortune 500 companies or whoever it might be. I would try to find a mentor as soon as possible, and whether that's what I'm going to use my laptop for.
Okay.
And I would invest all of my time in that mentor and helping me grow what I'm doing, because he's probably going to give you a few pieces of knowledge. You take the knowledge and you just
Mm-hmm.
spread it like a domino effect of
Yes.
kind of like what I did when I first started out. Is that I was born and raised here, and I thought I knew a lot of people, but I started meeting with anybody I could for coffee in the morning and telling them what I was doing, what I wanted to do. And I'd meet with one person. He would give me, or she would give me 4 or 5 names of other individuals who might have started a company, and then I'd schedule appointments with them to go have coffee to pick their brain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, obtaining as much knowledge as possible is something that I needed in the beginning. And I think whatever city I'm in, it won't take long with having Google to figure out, somebody that's started a company that is in, society's eyes been successful.
Mm-hmm.
And really the money, I really don't need money to start something. The money will grow, but if nothing else, I don't have a car. I can't drive for Uber. I don't know. I mean, you could lease a car from Uber. It's probably,
Yeah.
and I still say to this day, Uber is one of the main reasons that I'm in business, because I had a few other part-time jobs in Nashville when I was starting this, and I was confined to a schedule of somebody else's. And if one of my clients or potential clients said, "Hey, I can meet Monday at 4," but I was having to work for another job, I couldn't meet with that person, and then they might never meet with me.
That's true.
So Uber was the biggest asset I had because I could make my own schedule. I could drive when I wanted to, and certain days I didn't have anything during the day. I'd just drive all day. And so if Uber's a resource, whether that be leasing the car and starting out, investing all $150 into leasing a car,
and then make more money. That's perfect. And just a couple more questions. If you had one piece of advice, just one piece of advice to someone that's just starting out, when you were first starting out, what would you say to them? What would you let them know?
I've kind of touched on this earlier, but you really have to ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? Is it your passion? I've got something that might be coming up in the pipeline to start a new business venture. It's not my passion.
Okay.
Definitely not my passion, but it's something that I know that I can grow. And so that's the question I'd ask them, because if you're not passionate about whatever it is that you're wanting to do, or passionate about just growing something in general, you're not going to devote all of your time to.
Yes.
So the main thing you have to ask yourself is, is this something that you really want to do?
Yes.
You can't come across anything and give half the effort, because you're going to get half the result.
Exactly.
It's all about what you put into it. So biggest piece of advice, just ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing. It's something that you're willing to sacrifice, some friends for, your social life, what other people think about you. I don't think there's anybody that knows me that thought, oh, he's an idiot. A lot of people probably thought I was an idiot for leaving my dad's company, because I gave up a lot to do that. But, I don't think anybody questioned my ability to be where I'm at now, and question the fact that if I was going to succeed or fail. But you can't care about what other people think, and that kind of goes into asking yourself if this is what you want to do, because that is one of the thoughts you're going to have is, other people are going to question you, doubt you, whatever it might be, but it just all has to be worth it in the end.
I agree. Thank you for that. Do you have any last messages, pieces of advice, any shout outs you would like to do before we end it?
Really, I've kind of touched on everything in my mind I wanted to. It's all about what you put into it. And I spoke most recently, it was a panel of about 4 different entrepreneurs. And that was something that the 4 of us stressed to this crowd as much as possible is, if this is something you're truly passionate about, just go all in. Don't try to do it on the side. Don't try to, don't have fear that you're not going to make money. There's so many different ways to make money, Uber being one of them, or Lyft, or, there are so many different ways to make money in your spare time. A lot of people just don't do it because they're afraid to fail, or they're afraid to give up things in their life that will make them successful, or that's keeping them from becoming successful. But other than that, I pretty much touched on everything. Really, where you can find me, Instagram is my main source of social media, and it's just Richards, RICHARDS _bespoke, BESPOKE, and then at my website, richardsbespoke.com.
Perfect. I just want to thank you so much for jumping on this call. We've learned a ton, and I wish you the best in business. And I may come to you for a suit. Who knows? Here are my top 3 takeaways. Know what you're good at. Stephen knew that the one thing he felt that he knew better than anyone around him was how to dress. He took what he loved and found a way to make a business out of it. Search for what you love and the money will come. Reach out to your network. When Stephen made the decision to quit his job at his dad's company, he reached out to a friend that knew a friend that owned a business. This allowed him to reach a business owner in his industry that was willing to take him under his wing and teach him the ropes. Find a mentor that'll do the same for you to shorten your learning curve. Go all in. For those of you that know exactly what your passion is, Stephen suggests going all in on your dreams. Stephen was able to do Uber while building his business. That allowed him to make money on a flexible schedule while he built his dreams. That's all for today. If you like what you see, consider subscribing and press that notification bell to be notified when we post. If you or anyone you know would like to share their business story, feel free to send over an email in the description below. Today's quote: if you don't have big dreams and goals, you end up working for someone that does. Unknown. Peace.